The rugged mountains of Venezuela hold many secrets. Some are beautiful, some are terrifying. These landscapes, with their dense forests and hidden valleys, have witnessed countless stories, both enchanting and horrifying. This is the story of one of the latter, a tale that sends shivers down the spine and makes one question the very nature of humanity. This is the story of José Dorángel Vargas Gómez, better known as El Comegente, the Eater, a man whose name became synonymous with fear and revulsion. Between 1998 and 1999, Vargas terrorized the state of Táchira. His reign of terror left an indelible mark on the community, forever changing the lives of those who lived there. He preyed on vulnerable men, luring them to their deaths with promises of companionship or work. These men, often desperate and alone, fell into his trap, unaware of the horrors that awaited them. Then he would commit the unthinkable. In the shadows of these isolated areas, Vargas carried out his gruesome acts. He would kill them and consume their flesh. The evidence left behind painted a chilling picture of his monstrous deeds. This is a journey into the heart of darkness, an attempt to understand the mind of a man who seemed to exist outside the boundaries of human morality. Vargas's crimes shocked Venezuela, sending waves of fear and disbelief throughout the nation. They exposed a darkness that many struggled to comprehend. The community, gripped by fear, held vigils and sought solace in each other, trying to make sense of the senseless. How could a human being commit such atrocities? What drives a person to such depths of depravity? What led him down this path of unimaginable cruelty? Was it his upbringing, his environment, or something more sinister within his psyche? These are questions that continue to haunt us today. Investigators, journalists, and psychologists alike have delved into his past, seeking answers that remain elusive. This essay will attempt to shed light on the life and crimes of El Comegente. By piecing together the fragments of his life, we hope to understand the man behind the monster. We will explore his early life, his descent into madness, and the chilling details of his crimes. From his troubled childhood to his final capture, every detail offers a glimpse into his twisted world. We will also delve into the psychology of cannibalism, attempting to understand the motivations behind this most taboo of acts. What compels a person to consume another human being? This is not a story for the faint of heart. It is a journey into the darkest corners of the human mind. But it is a story that needs to be told. Only by confronting these horrors can we hope to prevent them in the future, because only by confronting the darkness in our world can we hope to overcome it. In understanding the depths of human depravity, we can strive to foster a world where such horrors are but a distant memory. José Dorángel Vargas Gómez was born in 1967 in the poverty-stricken town of Santa Isabel, Venezuela. The town was a place where dreams were often crushed by the harsh realities of life. Life was hard for young José. The streets were unforgiving and the future seemed bleak. He was one of 11 children. The family lived in a cramped, dilapidated house where privacy was a luxury they couldn't afford. His family struggled to survive. Every day was a battle to put food on the table, and the children often went to bed hungry. His upbringing was marked by instability and neglect. The chaotic household environment left little room for nurturing or care. His father was an alcoholic and abusive. The constant fear of violence cast a dark shadow over José's childhood. His mother, struggling to cope, offered little in the way of emotional support. She was overwhelmed by the sheer weight of their circumstances. By the age of 10, Vargas had turned to petty theft. Stealing became a means of survival in a world that seemed to offer him nothing. He was often caught stealing food to survive. Each time he faced the wrath of shopkeepers and the scorn of the community. The authorities saw him as a nuisance, a product of his environment. They believed he was destined for a life of crime. No one could have predicted the horror that lay dormant within him. The seeds of darkness were already taking root. He was in and out of juvenile detention. Each stint behind bars only seemed to harden him further. He showed little remorse for his actions. He seemed detached, emotionless. The system failed to rehabilitate him. Experts now believe that these early behavioral problems may have been early warning signs of a deeply troubled mind. They were the first indicators of a much darker path ahead. At 16, Vargas committed his first violent crime. The act was brutal and unprovoked. He attacked a man with a machete, nearly killing him. The victim's screams echoed through the streets, a chilling prelude to the violence that would follow. This act of unprovoked violence landed him in a psychiatric institution. It was a place meant to heal, but for Vargas, it became another prison. It was here that Vargas was diagnosed with schizophrenia and a severe personality disorder. The diagnosis explained his erratic behavior, but offered little hope for a cure. Doctors noted his violent tendencies and lack of empathy. They saw a young man who was a danger to himself and others. They considered him a danger to society. The discussions were filled with concern and uncertainty about his future. However, after 18 months, Vargas was released back into the world. The decision was controversial and fraught with risk. It wouldn't be long before he would kill again. The darkness within him was far from being extinguished. This time, his crimes would shock the nation and etch his name in the annals of criminal history. The seeds of darkness had fully blossomed into a nightmare. In 1995, Vargas committed his first murder. His victim was Baltazar Cruz Moreno, a man Vargas had befriended in a local park. Vargas lured Moreno to a secluded area, promising him food and money. But Vargas had murder on his mind. He bludgeoned Moreno to death with a pipe. What happened next was even more disturbing. Vargas dismembered Moreno's body, cooking and eating parts of his flesh. He later claimed that he liked the taste and that it was like pork, but sweeter. This act of cannibalism was not driven by hunger or desperation. It was a deliberate act of depravity, a sign of the darkness that now consumed Vargas. Vargas was soon arrested for Moreno's murder. He confessed to the crime in a detached and emotionless manner. He showed no remorse for his actions. He was deemed insane and committed to a psychiatric hospital. Once again, however, Vargas would not remain confined for long. In 1997, he escaped from the hospital, disappearing into the vast Venezuelan wilderness. He was now a phantom, a boogeyman whispered about in hushed tones. Little did anyone know he was just getting started. After escaping the hospital, Vargas found refuge in the rugged mountains surrounding the city of San Cristobal. He lived as a hermit, surviving off the land and the occasional theft. But you know, his taste for human flesh had not abated. In November 1998, Vargas embarked on a killing spree that would terrorize the region. He preyed on vulnerable men, often beggars or transients, who were unlikely to be missed. He would befriend them, offering them food, money, or work. Then he would lead them back to his makeshift camp in the mountains. Vargas's methods were brutal and efficient. He would kill his victims quickly, usually with a blow to the head. Then he would butcher their bodies, carefully removing the organs he considered inedible. He would bury the remains, often marking the graves with crosses fashioned from sticks. He later told police that he avoided eating the hearts and livers of his victims because he believed they contained bad thoughts. Over the next 2 months, Vargas killed and cannibalized at least 10 men. His crimes went largely unnoticed. The victims were often from the fringes of society, their disappearances barely registering with the authorities, but rumors began to circulate in the shanty towns and amongst the homeless. Whispers of a devil in the mountains who preyed on the weak and unwary. These whispers would soon turn to screams. In February 1999, Vargas made a fatal mistake. He attempted to dispose of the remains of his latest victim, a local farmer named Rafael Cadenas, in a shallow grave near a popular hiking trail. Vargas had been meticulous in his previous crimes, but this time he grew careless. The grave was discovered by a group of hikers who were horrified to find human bones and decomposing flesh. The sight was gruesome, and the stench of decay filled the air, making it impossible to ignore. The police were immediately called. They arrived swiftly, cordoning off the area and beginning their investigation. The discovery of the grave sent shockwaves through the community. People were terrified, wondering if there could be more victims and if the killer was still lurking among them. The police launched a full-scale investigation, combing the mountains for the killer. They knew they had to act quickly to prevent further loss of life. They soon discovered more graves, each containing the mutilated remains of Vargas's victims. The scale of the horror was becoming clear, and the community's fear turned to outrage. The sheer brutality of the crimes, coupled with the evidence of cannibalism, horrified even the most seasoned investigators. They had never encountered such a level of depravity. They were dealing with a monster. The forest, once a place of beauty and tranquility, had become a nightmarish landscape. It didn't take long for the police to connect Vargas to the murders. His pattern of behavior and the evidence left behind pointed directly to him. He was a known eccentric who lived in the mountains. His reclusive lifestyle had always made him a subject of local gossip. He had a history of violence and mental instability. His past was littered with incidents that, in hindsight, seemed like clear warning signs, and he had recently been seen with several of the victims. Witnesses came forward providing crucial information that helped build the case against him. On February 14, 1999, Vargas was apprehended by a group of farmers who recognized him from police sketches. They bravely confronted him, ensuring he could harm no one else. He was found hiding in a cave, surrounded by human bones. The cave was a macabre shrine to his twisted acts. When questioned by police, Vargas confessed to his crimes. His confession was chilling in its detail and lack of emotion. He spoke in a calm, matter-of-fact manner, showing no remorse for the suffering he had inflicted. His detachment was unnerving to everyone present. He claimed that he had been ordered by God to kill and eat his victims. This delusion added a disturbing layer to his already horrifying actions. He also claimed that he had only killed men. This selective targeting puzzled investigators, adding another layer of complexity to his psyche. He would later say that he avoided consuming women because they tasted bad and children because they were too innocent. His twisted logic was both baffling and terrifying. The public was both horrified and captivated by Vargas's story. The media frenzy turned him into a dark legend almost overnight. He became known as El Comegente, the Eater. The nickname stuck, encapsulating the horror of his crimes. His crimes dominated the headlines, casting a long shadow over the country. The fear and fascination with his story seemed to permeate every aspect of daily life. He was a monster, a boogeyman come to life, the kind of figure that haunted nightmares and folklore. But he was also a human being, a product of his environment and his biology. Understanding him required delving into the darkest corners of the human mind. His case raised uncomfortable questions about the nature of evil and the limits of human compassion. It forced society to confront the reality that monsters can be made not just born,